LIB Radio, LIB TV, and LivingInBlack.com networks. My name is Keidi Awadu, a.k.a. The Conscious Rasta, and weekday mornings, you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific time, that's 12 noon Eastern time, 7 p.m. or 5 p.m. GMT, and 7 p.m. East Africa time. We get together with you to deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family conflict, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Friday. Ooh, Friday. It's Friday, the 2nd day of June, year 2017 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6257. In the calendar of ancient Kemet, to which we've realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place on LIB Radio, LIB TV, and LivingInBlack.com. Simulcasting as we do daily when we're live on blogtalkradio.com. You can also use the TuneIn app on your mobile phone to get us as LIB Radio. Livestream.com, we are LIB TV, as well as Ustream.tv. We are LIB TV. And doing the best we can, of course, broadcasting live, as we do, not every day, but many days, on Facebook Live as well. So tell your friends to tell their friends we have our own now, and our own is pretty doggone good. In the second hour today, we will be joined by Brother Irby Phillips Jr., as well as his Friday co-host, Terry Eileen Liggins. He says today is Get Your Raw on Friday. Co-host Terry, a.k.a. T-Raw. Too many people either take for granted or just don't know or just don't understand the consequences of excessive weight or obesity. Today, we shall discuss some of the common habits that cause weight gain and provide solutions for gaining improved health and wellness. So, weight management, health and wellness, you love these topics. In fact, that coincides with the topic that I'm taking on today. Shocking news. I was listening to Gary Null's research this morning, as I do try to every morning, one of my favorite researchers. And Dr. Gary Null was talking about, among other things, when do we begin to age? Now, I wrote this book, Living Superfood Longevity. It came out exactly 1 year ago this week. I'll have a new book, Living Superfood Recipes Volume 2, coming out 1 week from today. The printer has promised me they will arrive 1 week from today, and I will be shipping them. In this book, I talked about how our hormones start to age and downshift in our late 20s or by age 30 or so. I talked about peak fecundity, that period in which women's bodies are best prepared to deliver babies. And fecundity for women of African heritage is different than that from women of European heritage and other ethnicities around the planet. For African women, peak fecundity appears to be between the years of 17 and 27. So for many women who are delaying the birth of their first child in the Western countries, including the United States, to as late as 30 now in many of these countries, fecundity has already peaked, which means in the background your body is aging. So that's what we're going to take on today. Aging. The topic aging begins at 27. I ask that with a question mark. Today on LIB Radio, we explore the shocking Nobel Prize-winning finding. Are there any lifestyle modifications that can be implemented before age 27 and throughout our lives that can slow down, arrest, or even reverse the aging process? I said reverse the aging process. Believe it or not, and I contend, I am younger at age 61 plus than I was at age 42. I am younger. Physically stronger and more capable. Younger. How could that possibly be? Someone take 20 years off of their aging process and go back? How could that possibly be? So that's what we are going to focus on today. The good news is that there is a lot of good news. The bad news is the majority of people won't do what they can to slow down the aging process. So then the question arises, this is a very serious question, what are you going to do? So that's our topic in our first hour. Aging begins at age 27. We've got 5 scientific peer review and published articles on this I pulled up to share with you, as well as I'm going to go into my book, which is entitled Living Superfood Longevity, into chapter 16, the role of enzymes in life, health, and longevity. And we got a caller online. We love the calls here at LIB Radio. Caller, I've got you up on line 2. No, you're not on line 2. They hung up on line 2. So if at any given time anybody wants to share your thoughts, do give us a call. The phone numbers to call in are on the front page of libradio.com. And you can call us on our blog talk line. That's the preferred line. Area code 646-716-9835. Press the 1 button when you get in the queue. That'll send me a flag and let me know that you have something you do want to contribute to the show. First of all, let's go into the science of this topic of aging today. And the first reference we're going to, I had mentioned about Nobel Prize winning science on this. We're going to go to NewYorker.com, the article entitled Malcolm Gladwell on the Science of Aging, written by Avi Zindelman, October 2009. And don't be surprised that much of this research, or some of this research here that's coming on this topic, is coming from 2009. That was the year that the Nobel Prize was awarded. And this article will talk about that as well. And again, for those of you following along, you can get these links to the articles that I'm sharing here on my Facebook page, on the Facebook video live, but better yet, use my Facebook page. There'll be much more detailed work there. From the New Yorker, 3 researchers won the Nobel Prize in Medicine this morning for their work on telomeres, a sort of fuse at the end of chromosomes that shortens with age. The introduction of telomere theory, as Malcolm Gladwell reported for the magazine in 1996, upended the defeatist model of aging. Once we could figure out how to tinker with the telomeres, scientists could find ways to prolong life. Now, when he says we tinker with telomeres, your cautionary flag should go up, and rightly so. As I show in my book, your body was designed to repair its telomeres. It's a process called reverse transcription, RNA. We'll get to that in chapter 16. In his article, Gladwell met with Carol Greeter, one of the newly announced laureates, so she could explain to him the research on telomeres and cancer that would eventually win her the prize. Gladwell wrote, quote, "Perhaps the most important potential application of telomere theory is the subject most telomere researchers are concentrating their energies on, is in the treatment of cancer. And it is a concept of such extraordinary elegance that when Gritter, who must have explained telomere theory hundreds of times, described it to me, it was almost as if she were talking about a painting she had just seen in the Louvre. The idea starts with the most puzzling of the many questions raised by cancer. How is it that a cell escapes its normal growth limits? A cancerous cell, after all, is a cell that will not stop dividing. There are, in fact, cancer cells that have been grown continuously in laboratories for decades, Henrietta Lacks, filling Petri dishes after Petri dish. The puzzle is that this kind of immortality would seem to be impossible, since any cell that keeps dividing will eventually run out of telomere. So how do cancer cells get around the telomere problem? The answer is thought to be the presence of an enzyme known as telomerase, which for reasons that no one quite knows is present in cancer cells, but not in most normal cells. Telomerase has the extraordinary ability to stabilize telomeres, automatically replacing every bit of telomere lost during cell division. Normal cells know how to make the enzyme, but they don't. In a normal cell, the telomerase switch is turned off. One of the ways in which a cell becomes cancerous, however, is that through some random mutation or mistake, it finds a way to turn the telomerase switch on so that the cell has the ability to divide indefinitely without ever tripping the telomerase timer. I'm understanding what they're talking about, but they're covering up a big, huge elephant in the room, and that is the 1932 discovery by Dr. Otto Warburg that won him the Nobel Prize in Medicine of what caused cancer. And that was the reversion of modern day, we might say, in the evolutionary chain, eukaryotic cells reverting to prokaryotic behaviors. Now, if we understand the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and I pulled that up to give you an explanation today, we would understand why, while I was reading that article, part of my brain is saying, they're covering up the big elephant in the room. Now, if you and I can't even read what they're writing, then how are we going to know that they're not telling the whole story? Because they use some ambiguous language in here. And they said, well, we don't really know how it does this, so maybe this, some, comme ci, comme ça. No, our knowledge base is better than that. It's bigger than that. I'm going to continue reading this article because it is informative. But I want you to make the kind of open your mind to the possibility that these people in this great, big, vast medical science research community all across America, whose papers I read every day, so I think there is some value in what they've created, are not really capable of telling enough of the truth that would upset their cash cow. My problem is it's so hard for you to believe me. But I'm not worried about that because I know myself. I know how quality of research I'm doing. And I know this book right here, there's probably not 10 books out there on longevity that can touch it. Some of the books out there on longevity that are very good, I reviewed 5 of them for this book. And even then, they're disconnected from each other. Let's go forward. Greeter discovered telomerase in the winter of 1984 when she was working with a single-cell pond-dwelling organism known as tetrahymena. Tetrahymena. And again, when they say single-celled pond-dwelling organism, that is what I was talking about. That is a prokaryote. We talked about this in the chapter discussing the difference between sex and reproduction. They are not the same thing. Both are means of replication, yes. Reproduction works one way, sex works another way. They are very different from each other, and that chapter in my book, The Difference Between Sex and Reproduction, explains the nature of why cancer proliferates and grows like it does, and what this article is linking to the discovery of a single cell. That's the operant word, single cell. Means it doesn't have a complex reproductive biology. Therefore, it reproduces, or a complex replicative biology, I might say. It reproduces, and it will not engage in sex. 2 different things. So again, Greeter discovered telomerase in the winter of 1984 when she was working with a single-cell pond-dwelling organism known as tetrahymena. But she didn't grasp its significance until almost 8 years later, when she and the biologist Calvin Harley began finding telomerase in human tumor cells. Then they realized that they may have stumbled on a beautiful and straightforward strategy for fighting cancer, to find the telomerase switch in tumor cells and turn it off. That's the modern day stuff. That's the stuff they want to make the money on. Dr. Otto Warburg's findings on the cause of cancer didn't need them to interfere. All it needed you and I to do was learn how to breathe. Learn how to get oxygen flowing to every cell throughout our whole body. That's simple. That simple. Blocking telomerase is actually much easier than the reverse, trying to lengthen telomeres. Harley said much easier. Did that say it was impossible? No. Chapter 7 of my book, Off the Weight, the 4 stages of healing. The 4th and final stage of healing is repairing the telomeres. Now, I could figure that out. I don't even have a college degree. How could I figure that out? Because I understood the process of reverse transcription. Reverse transcription. And the enzyme necessary to function in reverse transcription is called RNA. Reverse transcription works off of, not telomerase, transcriptase. Transcriptase. Telomerase, transcriptase. ACE is a suffix which means enzyme. These are metabolic enzymes. People, if you understand this, and I have a whole chapter on that. If we understand this process, now you understand how you and I can have definitive impact on the aging process. Please, please, please pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm going to continue. She said about the reverse transcriptase, it said it's harder to turn that on than to turn it off. Just as there are many more ways to make a car stop running than to make it run better. Suppressing telomerase is also, at least in theory, a hugely attractive way of fighting cancer. Right now, standard cancer fighting techniques don't do a good job of finding and killing cancer cells that have escaped to other parts of the body. Those metastatic tumor cells, which lodge in the lungs of the liver, in the liver, I think they mean, and usually end up killing the patient. Standard cancer drugs also have the problem of being unable to distinguish between healthy cells and cancerous cells. Well, your body can distinguish to them. You know about apoptosis. That's your body. You don't even need to be thinking about apoptosis. Well, I wonder if there are any cancer cells in my body today. Let me go look for them. Body says, man, just concentrate on the radio show, Keidi. I'll take care of the cancer cells. I do it every day. You don't even pay attention to it. Apoptosis. He says standard cancer drugs also have the problem of being unable to distinguish between healthy cells and cancerous cells. They attack every dividing cell they meet, and therefore the treatment of cancer is sometimes as dangerous as the disease itself. No, it's more dangerous than the disease. You don't believe me? Give cancerous drugs in full dose to somebody who's perfectly healthy. Give them to a child. If they're so good for people, we may give them to a child to prevent cancer. No, don't give that to a child. It'll kill the child. Make the child extremely, extremely sick. Don't do this to children anymore. But if Geron Corporation develops, as it hopes to, a pill that turns off telomerase, it should sidestep that problem. With a few minor exceptions, tumor cells are the only cells in the body that produce telomerase, and therefore, logic would have it. Listen what they said. Tumor cells are the only cells in the body that produce telomerase, and therefore the therapy should be able to zero in like a guided missile on cancer cells wherever they might be, blocking the enzyme that makes them immortal. The idea is that with a few months or even perhaps a year of continuous telomerase therapy, cancer tumors would simply divide themselves out of existence. But they said that early in there, they discovered telomerase not in complex cells, but in single-cell prokaryotic life forms. And that was what Dr. Otto Warburg's research found in the 1930s, was cancer was a oxygen deprivation status inside parts of your body, if not the whole body, that cause cells to revert from eukaryotic back to prokaryotic behavior. And therefore, if they reverted to prokaryotic behavior, meaning that they don't burn fuel in mitochondria inside the cell membrane for energy, then they revert back to the prokaryotic behavior of fermentation as a source of energy. You don't need oxygen. I know this is a little complicated, but doggone it, life is complicated. The automobile you drive is complicated. Wouldn't you at least like to know that your mechanic knows how it works? And wouldn't it be nice for you to know exactly as much information about how your automobile works as a mechanic does? You may not have time to work on it, but you'll know if your mechanic is jerking you. And I tell you, people, the mechanics of our bodies, the so-called healthcare system, is jerking us. Cindy's in the house. She says, I just shared your video. Let them know you appreciate it. Oh, Cindy did. Oh, someone else said that. She said, I agree, more dangerous. I have seen it. Yeah, those cancer chemotherapies. So I'm coming out of this article right now, but there's part of this article that's very, very important. So I'm going to copy, cut, and paste it for those of you who have the capacity, and I understand not everyone does have the capacity of reading and comprehending this information, but I highly recommend that you try and learn this language, that you try and learn this dialogue to the very best of your abilities. So I'm pushing this up, and this is again coming from the New Yorker magazine. I'm pushing this little text up for those of you following along. I'm going to go to my next article. I had 5 articles, I think now. And the second one we're going to pull up, this one is from the National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. This is an abstract I'm going to share with you. And this one is entitled, When Does Age-Related Cognitive Decline Begin? Cognitive decline. This is kind of sensitive. A wise man once said, if you throw a rock at a pack of dogs, the only one that yelps is the one that gets hit. In this case, if you throw a rock at a pack of cognitive declinees, the ones that get hit don't know what hit them. They don't even know they got hit. Cognitive decline, meaning your decline in your ability to not only see, hear, taste, smell, feel, but also your ability to process those sentences into some cohesive, functioning concept. Abstract. Cross-sectional comparisons have consistently revealed that increased age is associated with lower levels of cognitive performance, even in the range from 18 to 60 years of age. However, the validity of cross-sectional comparisons of cognitive functioning in young and middle-aged adults has been questioned because of the discrepant age trends found in longitudinal and cross-sectional analyses. The results of the current project suggest that a major factor contributing to the discrepancy is the masking of age-related declines in longitudinal comparisons by large positive effects associated with prior test experience. Results from 3 methods of estimating retest effects, meaning I test you for cognitive decline orders at age 18, at age 24, at age 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, and 60. See, that was pretty good mathematics. That's good cognitive functioning. But the thing about it is if I'm testing you for these all these times, then by the time you're 30 and you've taken the test twice, that's going to bias the outcome of the test because of your experience with the test. That's what they just said. Again, here's what they said. See if you hear it. The results of the current project suggest that a major factor contributing to the discrepancy is the masking of age-related declines in longitudinal comparisons by large positive effects associated with prior test experience. Results from 3 methods of estimating retest effects in this project, together with results from studies comparing non-human animals raised in constant environments and from studies examining neurobiological variables not susceptible to retest effects, converge on a conclusion that some aspects of age-related cognitive decline begin in healthy, educated adults when they are in their 20s and 30s. And the article goes on. It's a rather long, somewhat complex article with how many references? 38 references for the article. Let me see if I can share with you the last couple of paragraphs to summarize. The results of the current project, together with results from research on non-human animals and on neurobiological variables, suggest that age-related cognitive decline begins relatively early in adulthood, but that it may not be detected in longitudinal comparisons until effects of prior test experience are taken into consideration. Not all aspects of cognitive functioning exhibit early age-related declines because measures based on accumulated knowledge, such as performance on tests of vocabulary or general information, are consistently found to increase until at least age 60. However, only those variables exhibiting negative age-related differences in cross-sectional comparisons are directly relevant to the question of when age-related cognitive decline begins. And I'm just going to copy, cut, and paste some of this dialogue as well. And as well, we do remind you, our listening audience, you're invited to join the conversation today here on LIB Radio. We always do appreciate it, love it, as I like to say, when you, our listening audience, do participate in the conversation. Again, area code 646-716-9835. That's going to get you right through to participate in the show today. I'm going to continue reading a little bit more of this abstract. There is some evidence that the magnitude of age-related decline accelerates at older ages. To illustrate, a sample of about 800 adults between 61 and 96 years of age in my laboratory had cross-sectional slopes of about minus 0.4 to minus 0.5 SD units per year compared to the slopes. I'm going to skip over that because I don't have what SD is in my mind. And going forward, what is not yet known is whether these quantitatively different age trends reflect changes in the same set of influences or the operation of qualitatively different types of influences. So when you think about these influences and aging, well, you're not going to have the same influences impacting aging at age 36 in 1936 that you would have at age 90 in 1990. So these external variables, these external stresses, do themselves increase as time goes on. However, what does appear clear is that several different types of results converge on the conclusion that age-related cognitive decline begins relatively early in adulthood and certainly before age 60 in healthy, educated adults. When I look around and I'm looking at this thing that in Chapter 1 and later in Appendix 6 I called evolution versus devolution, de-evolving, I am seeing de-evolving devolutionary impact and effects even in teenagers at this particular point. But most certainly evident by the time a person turns 30 years old. That could be age-related, but is most likely not age-related, especially when we're seeing it in people that haven't even grown to full-size adults yet, but whose physiology appears to be devolved from the current state of human evolution. Finally, although the results of this project suggest that at least some of the differences in the age trends in cross-sectional and longitudinal comparisons are attributable to retest effects, distorting longitudinal comparisons, the results should not be interpreted as implying that longitudinal comparisons, longitudinal meaning over the course of time, longitudinal comparisons are not meaningful or valuable. In fact, quite the opposite is true, because only with longitudinal data can one examine within individual changes, distinct from between person differences. Instead, the major point is that merely because the changes are observed within the same individual does not mean that they only reflect aspects of maturation. Strengths and weaknesses of both cross-sectional and longitudinal data therefore need to be considered when reaching conclusions about age trends in cognitive functioning. So cross-sectional meaning we take a large swath of people who fit the same profile, be it geographic, ethnicity, age profile, whatever. That's cross-sectional, as opposed to longitudinal, meaning we take 5 individuals and we measure them over the course of 30 years. If we take 30 people, or 30 times 5, 150 people from a cross-sectional, we can do an analysis in 1 year of 150 life years. If we take 5 individuals to reach that same 150 life years, it takes then 30 years of those 5 individuals. Cross-sectional versus longitudinal. And now you know. Going forward, next article we have, your brain starts deteriorating by age 27, say neuroscientists. And this is really an extension of the very same article that we did just read. Only this comes from another news source. So I'm going to share this. And somebody says, Sultan says, I'm working currently. Sadly, can this be viewed later? Yeah, it should be able to be viewed later, but I'm not sure. Cindy says, my friend tried to call and got the same results. She could not hear the show. And I don't know what the deal is, whether you can't hear the show. I'm looking at my output signals, and I'm getting output on all of the computers. So sometimes you may want to reboot or double check, put up YouTube and see if you can hear on YouTube or something else. And I don't know what the deal is there. Article, your brain starts deteriorating by age 27, say neuroscientists. All right, and Irby Phillips says, well, in the queue I could not hear the broadcast. And this double checking, it should be able to hear the broadcasts. And, oh, that could be Blog Talk, because sometimes Blog Talk acts a fool. So I'm going to reload that Blog Talk website. Yeah, I've had this happen before where Blog Talk itself just glitches, and hopefully show is continuing. All right. Hopefully the show is up there on Blog Talk right now, and there should be no problem. I think it's going to be working just fine right now. Maybe somebody want to... Oh, I do have a queue in Blog Talk for my first caller. And let me bring that caller right in on the Blog Talk Radio queue, area code 323. Got you up. Your name, where you're calling from?
Brother Keidi, Brother Irby, Brother Keidi, how you doing today?
Hey, Brother Keidi, Brother Irby, Brother Keidi. Whoever you are, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I had a problem with Blog Talk earlier, but after I heard you, I tried calling again, and I got through fine and hear it fine, and everything is great.
Yeah, it probably just glitched.
Yeah, my comment is that I am finally beginning to experience what you were saying for a long, long time about 60 being the new 30.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard you make that comment, you know, I was struggling with my risk factors for cardiovascular disease, and aging, my internals were aging. Then after listening to what you and Sister Terry were talking about with respect to raw foods and living superfood and taking the EPX cardio supplement, my internal age began to reverse. I started getting this surge of energy, physical energy, in my mind became more sharp.
That's right.
It was like it was a phenomenal transition. So I just wanted to give a testimony that what you're covering today about anti-aging and reversing and all, it's real.
That's
it's
right.
Really real.
That's right. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Do you currently have a 20-minute or more daily cardiovascular regime?
I don't have it consistently. I have one for about 3 or 4 days a week, though. I'm trying to push it up to 6 to 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I am staying more busy than I was before because I have the energy. I can't sit still.
That's right. In the book, Longevity, we show you the recommendation is 150 minutes a week of medium to high impact cardiovascular workout. So I use one called high impact interval training, whereas I go out for 20 minutes in the morning, and I haven't been doing it since I've been writing my book, but now done with that, got to get back to routine. And I walk for 90 seconds at a good rapid walking pace, and then I take off running for 30 seconds. I time it on my watch, do 10 cycles of that. That's the 20 minutes, and boy, that is a wonderful, great workout, and it really hyper-oxygenates the blood, which, as you know, Brother Irby, and now from listening to the program today, is one of the primary methods that we're going to be holding off cancer, hyperoxygenating the blood. When you were dealing with atherosclerosis, clogged arteries, and this cardiovascular risk, you were also, you may not have known it, but you had also pushed up significantly your risk for developing cancer.
I can see that, brother. I can see the connections now. When I started to change my habits, my lifestyle, I could see the connections in comparison to my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my siblings, who were not making that shift. The connection is clear to me.
That's right. And second question is, are you officially in a category of vegetarian or vegan?
Not officially yet, but I am about 80% there now.
Well, you do definitely want to make that change. You want to make that transformation. I cannot emphasize that enough. That we talk about the 11 different levels of how people eat. You are probably what's called now level 4, which is a modified standard American diet, modified SAD. It is only when one gets to level 7, which is 80-20 vegan, meaning 80% of your food is raw, only 20% cooked. Only, according to my research, at that stage do we pretty much guarantee ourselves the extra longevity and the fact that we will not be getting these chronic diseases that other people get. Now, that's level 7. If you go up even higher, my eyesight improved itself from being reading glass dependent. Used to be when I would read on the air, I'd have to hold the book back air because I was what you call that nearsighted or farsighted, whatever it is. I don't really follow that stuff. But, I had to push the book away or else I couldn't focus in on the text. Now I can read the text up close and I can read it far away. My eyesight actually reversed its aging process. And that's moving to level 10 of 11. Now, if I were diagnosed with any chronic disease, I would immediately go to level 11. That's where Dr. Sabi actuated or activated the processes within his clients to make their body reverse the disease and aging processes.
Well, brother, I can tell you this. By the end of June, I'm going to be at level 8 or 9.
There you go. All right, Brother Irby. That's why we're here, is to help people like you who are determined to move forward to do the best that you can with the cues and with the information that you have available to us. Proud to see you making this move, Brother Irby. Live long and prosperous, my brother.
I'm looking forward to it, brother, and thank you for keeping this information, out there in the public and to the family. I appreciate you.
All right, real quickly, you're going to be joining at the top of the hour. Do give us a 20-second preview of what today's show about, Experience of Rebirth.
We're going to talk about weight gain, and how people cause their weight gain, but there's strategies and habits that can be implemented to change it. I get tired of hearing people talk about, I'm not worried about cardiovascular disease, I'm worried about this weight that I have, not knowing that they're the same evil.
All right, I appreciate that. I got another caller on the line right now, Brother Irby. I'm going to take that call. Thank you always for calling in and sharing your thoughts with your LIB Radio family. Talk to you in a few minutes. Caller, we got you up on Blog Talk Radio Q, area code 503, your name, where you're calling from.
Hi, Keidi. It's Cindy calling from Gladstone, Oregon, and I have a great testimony as well.
Yes,
as a question for you. The question I have is about the telomeres. Now, you're saying that the telomeres have been discovered in the cancer cell.
There's a difference between the telomere and telomerase. Telomerase is an enzyme that is associated with the telomeres copying themselves. Now, in the normal sexual process, the telomeres that we copy as part of our chromosomes and give to the baby are pretty good. In fact, that's why we reproduce at younger ages than at older ages. I cover this in appendix number 6 in a little bit more detail about this. It can be a little bit technical, but I'm just trying to simplify it right now. So we reproduce those full, complete telomeres through the breeding process, and then through what are called stem cells, we reproduce the best copies of telomeres that we possibly can throughout life. What the scientists found is that the presence of telomerase, the enzyme, is associated not with later multifunctional or multi-cell membrane-dependent life like humans and mammals, but the bacteria, simple bacteria. Those are not eukaryotic, those are prokaryotic, and they reproduce themselves, meaning they have 46 chromosomes in their life. Before they make a baby, they double their 46 to 92. Instead of, like humans, cut our 46 into 2 pairs of 23, they double theirs into 92, and then the cell splits and makes a perfect copy of itself. That perfect copy of itself splitting is what is likely being claimed as the creation of self-replicating cancer cells. They're replicating as prokaryotic, therefore the presence of telomerase. Did you comprehend that?
I did. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. It was kind of confusing to me. Now I get it. So the telomeres are the good ones, and the whatever you said, are not the good ones.
Well, telomeres, it's not that they're good or bad. They're just the caps, the ends of chromosomes. It's not that they're good or bad. The integrity of telomeres indicates the integrity of our chromosomes. But telomerase, telomerase is not that it's bad. It's just that it's not supposed to be in our bodies. It's not supposed to be working in our bodies. The thing that we're supposed to use in prokaryotic cells, this is very important. In prokaryotic, and I actually have, that's the last article I pulled up. Let me see if I can get through 3 more articles in the last couple of minutes. The presence of telomerase is normal in prokaryotic cells. The oldest life forms on Earth are all prokaryotic. The presence, or in the newer form, which are eukaryotic cell-based beings like humans and mammals, is called transcriptase. That's what allows you and your family line, we encounter a set of environmental conditions that's consistent over generations, and through reverse transcriptase, we encode that environmental information into the next generation. That's called evolution. So for humans, the preferred means of moving forward is through transcriptase, not telomerase.
I see.
No, and
transcriptase
is associated with what's called RNA. ribonucleic acid. Not DNA. Well, DNA is present in all life, but RNA is the thing. It's a little bit complicated. That's why you read my book, Living Superfood Longevity. I have several chapters in appendix explaining this process because it is directly related to aging.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Keidi. And I just have a quick testimony. I would like to say through Irby, I met Irby first, and through him, I was able to meet up with you and Terry, and I have changed my life. My diet has, I'm not as probably up there like Irby is as of yet, but I'm getting there, and it has truly, truly changed my life. I wish people would see that food is nature's best medicine. Just like you say, I love the way I eat. I love the way I feel. Most people do not even know that I am the age I am. They think I am at least 25 to 30 years younger, and sometimes even younger than that. It's helping, the way I eat is helping my skin. It helps everything. It just helps everything. So I want to say thank you so much, and thank you for that explanation. That was wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you always, Cindy. We appreciate hearing from you. And do stay tuned. I got some great information. If you want more information about this, from prokaryotes to eukaryotes, I just posted that up on today's broadcast, as well as I posted it up on my social media page. I'm going to move forward here. I've got a few more articles I'm going to try and squeeze in the last remaining minutes. Thank you for your call in today, Cindy. Real quickly, I just posted this. Since I'm on this issue of prokaryotes and eukaryotes, let me just go to there. And again, the last article I was reading from, your brain starts deteriorating by age 27, says neuroscientist. Real quickly from that, just a couple of paragraphs. A depressing news study, it's not depressing, it's informative, from a group of neuroscientists at University of Virginia suggests that people began experiencing age-related cognitive deterioration in their late 20s. Published today, a summary of the study explains some aspects of people's cognitive skills, such as the ability to make rapid comparisons, remember unrelated information, and detect relationships, peak at about the age of 22, and then begin a slow decline starting around age 27. That's what they said. That's what they found. Hey, I disagree. I'm still getting smarter. I'm still taking IQ tests that improve on the tests I took 10, 20, 30 years ago, or even 5 years ago. This research suggests that some aspects of age-related cognitive decline begin in healthy, educated adults when they are in their 20s and 30s, said Timothy Salthouse, a University of Virginia professor of psychology and the study's lead investigator. Salthouse needs to read that article, which appears in my documentary film called Suicide, about scientists find that high-sugar, high-fat diets interfere with the brain's function by impacting the function of the hippocampus, the center of memory and learning. High-fat, high-sugar diet blocks the development of BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which is necessary for memory and learning. Reading that article right there just seems to me like they skipped over that research or didn't know about it. Too bad that American medical research compartmentalizes itself so much that they leave the public stupid and vulnerable, uneducated, ignorant, and drug dependent. When in actuality, instead of putting people on these drugs, these ADHD medicines and other cognitive decline medicines for dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff, tell them stop eating so much fat and so much sugar. That should be a ground rule. People who are certified nutritionists working in these schools, they need to be instructed that, and somebody like me in the back of the room in the kitchen when they're preparing meals for these children needs to be someone like me in the back of the room with a baseball bat, a Louisville Slugger. And if I look in the dish and I see it's a high fat, high sugar, high refined carbohydrates, I'm going to take that Louisville Slugger and knock that pot right off the stove. Splash everybody in the kitchen. Say, if you keep doing that, you're going to keep getting splashed. Next article, from prokaryotes to eukaryotes, from Understanding Evolution is the website, from evolution.berkeley.edu, from University of Berkeley, California. How important is endosymbiosis? From prokaryotes to eukaryotes, living things have evolved into three large clusters of closely related organisms called domains. Archaea, bacteria, and eukaryote. Archaea and bacteria are small, relatively simple cells surrounded by a membrane and a cell wall with a circular strand of DNA containing their genes. They are called prokaryotes. Virtually all life we see each day, including plants and animals, belongs to the third domain, eukaryote. Eukaryotic cells are more complex than prokaryotes, and the DNA is linear and found within a nucleus. Eukaryotic cells boast their own personal power plants called mitochondria. These tiny organelles in the cell not only produce chemical energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, ADT, but also hold the key to understanding the evolution of the eukaryotic cell. The complex eukaryotic cell ushered in a whole new era of life on Earth because these cells evolved into multicellular organisms. But how did the eukaryotic cell itself evolve? How did a humble bacterium make this evolutionary leap from a simple prokaryotic cell to a more complex eukaryotic cell? The answer seems to be symbiosis. In other words, teamwork. Evidence supports the idea that eukaryotic cells are actually the descendants of separate prokaryotic cells that join together in symbiotic union. Again, they are the descendants of simple prokaryotic. So hence we have the reversion theory brought forward by Dr. Otto Warburg, for which he won 2 Nobel Prizes in the 1930s. And that person you call my doctor can't seem to figure out cancer to this day. In fact, the mitochondrion itself seems to be the great granddaughter of a free living bacterium that was engulfed by another cell, perhaps as a meal, and ended up staying as a sort of permanent house gas. The host cell profited from the chemical energy the mitochondrion produced, and the mitochondrion benefited from the protected, nutrient-rich environment surrounding it. This kind of internal symbiosis, one organism taking a permanent residence inside another and eventually evolving into a single lineage, is called endosymbiosis. Wow, that's really deep. Endosymbiosis. And Brother James says, now that is passion, the Louisville Slugger. I'm glad you caught that one, Brother James. I thought I had come up with something really valuable that everybody else said, I don't understand what he's talking about. Okay, we got one more article. This is a very important article from the Daily Post.pk, Pakistan. Where is this from? Pakistan. The Daily Post from Pakistan. This article is entitled, and I'm making a link to it also for those of you following along. This article entitled, Your Daily Mistakes. Where are we at? Your daily mistakes that cause premature aging. And aging is a natural phenomenon of growing old, yet there are many factors involved in the process. This process is inescapable and irreversible. I'm not necessarily convinced that that's necessarily true. And the better science is getting towards aging, the more that they're agreeing that, we appear to have found some certain reversible processes by which we can arrest aging process. And in certain cases, myself, I try and be a living example of it, reverse the aging process. But here's what they say. It says skin is the first organ that reflects the aging process. It's not necessarily true. It would be your reproductive biology first, by undergoing several changes, including wrinkles, lines, etc. Okay, here's some of the things. They talk about the things that we do, bad habits that makes people age faster. Number one, exposure to sun. Some of us say exposure to sun triggers the production of vitamin D3, one of the primary productive agents within our body to protect us against aging. In my list of 33 nutritional supplements that I use, one of them is entitled, that's in chapter 13, is entitled Vitamin D3. Let me just read you quickly about vitamin D3. Do I have it here? I have it in another part of the book, not in this section. But vitamin D3 is absolutely necessary, called the sun vitamin. So number two, smoking. Yes, I do definitely agree. Smoking is proven scientifically to destroy skin. But what smoking does, it destroys oxygen. This article from the Daily Post is obsessing with skin, with the superficiality of aging. I say aging and rejuvenation begins on the cellular level. The skin reflects what's happening inside the skin. Hello? So smoking, yes, it's carcinogenic. It interferes with the oxygen exchange in the lungs, and it does among other things. That includes smoking. If you smoke corn, it'll do the same thing. Carbonizing, heating things up over 160 degrees changes the molecular structure. So marijuana smoking is bad as well. Number three, diet. No, number three, stress. Very important. Very important. Everything is about stress, and not just psychological or social stress, but all kinds of stressors, environmental stressors. Number four, diet. Anything other than optimized nutrition for human beings is going to be associated with advancing the aging process, advancing senescence. Number five, loss of growth hormone. Well, they say loss of growth hormone. Hey, they say growth hormone is produced by the pituitary gland, and it performs many functions. Because of its role, besides of its role in body growth, it also works with collagen to maintain skin and muscle composition. As the aging starts, the growth hormone level decreases, which leads to loose and thinner skin. Again, I'm not obsessing with the skin here. I can understand their focus. The article is for women. But this loss of growth hormone is evidence of glandular degeneration, glandular senescence, aging of the glandular system. The pituitary is the master gland, not the pineal gland like many people claim. That's not the master gland. The pituitary gland is the master gland. And the master gland, the pituitary gland, produces the growth factor hormone. I can't remember the exact what it's called, but you know, the growth factor hormone. Human growth hormone, HGH, human growth hormone. And in number six, a lack of sleep. Lack of sleeping is one of the daily mistakes that causes premature aging. During sleeping, our pituitary gland produces several hormones which play a role in renewal of skin cells. Prolonged lack of sleep can induce rate of aging faster. Melatonin is a hormone that is said to slow down aging. It's produced in the night, so it's very important to have proper sleep. It's actually produced before night. It's produced in the pineal gland. So this article, I appreciate their efforts. Yeah, it wasn't real good, but it at least had us thinking of what we need to know. And on that note, we do need to know that there is much that we can do. It's a good time to take charge of these things. I was going to read from my book. And let me just share just a minute or two of this, and then I got to get the next show up. I'm already a little bit over time. This from Dr. Edward Howell. This from chapter 16 of the book, Living Superfood Longevity. Chapter 16, the role of enzymes in life, health, and longevity. Edward Howell says, if humans take in more exogenous digestive enzymes as nature ordained, the enzyme potential will not have to waste so much of its heritage digesting food. It can distribute more of this precious commodity to the metabolic enzymes where it rightfully belongs. The rightful distribution of enzyme energy will not only act to maintain health and prevent disease, but is expected to help cure established disease. Dr. Gabriel Cousins says enzymes are both chemical protein complexes and bioenergy reservoirs. Dr. Robert Dinkewalter says, enzymes are embarrassing because they can do at body temperatures and in simple solution what we organic chemists can only do with corrosive agents and high temperatures and with laborious processes. Dr. Leonard Thompson Trollin says life is something which has been built up about the enzymes. It is corollary of enzyme activity. Ann Wigmore says enzyme preservation is the secret to health. And the last one, Dr. Edward Howe says to get enzymes from food, one must eat raw food. All life, whether plant or animal, requires the presence of enzymes to keep it going. So that's chapter 16, the role of enzymes in life, health, and longevity. Now you know. Get the book. I've been saying the book came out 1 year ago this week. I'm saying to everyone, this should be considered the handbook of graceful aging. Everyone over the age of 27 needs to be using this manual, this handbook, Living Superfood Longevity, Master the Possibilities of High Quality Life Extension. Use it as a daily how-to manual for keeping yourself strong and healthy. And on that note, Brother Irby Phillips is going to be coming up here in just a second. And in the meantime, I am out of here for this hour. I hope you have enjoyed it. He's got Terry Liggins co-hosting with us, so don't you go nowhere. In about 60 seconds, we're going to switch over to our second hour broadcast on your favorite We Aim to Be. We are LIB Radio, LIB-TV, and LivingBlack.com. If you miss any portion of this conversation, go to LIBradio.com. Look in our archives. Get this one for your permanent record. Share it with your friends and your family. Tell the people you know to tell the people they know. We have our own voice now, and our voice can correct many of those gaps in knowledge that the mainstream medical pharmaceutical drug complex has left open and left us vulnerable to. Don't you go nowhere.
Greetings and welcome to Experience the rebirth of Black Wall Street, and I am one of your co-hosts for this Friday, Irby Phillips Jr., a.k.a. your honorable servant, and I'm joined by Sister Terry Eileen Liggins, the author of the book, Get Your Raw On.